Thank you all very much for coming out. My name is T. Russell Hopewell, and I'm the president of the Hubert B. Simmons Museum of Negro League Baseball, Inc. We thank you for coming. We had a great crowd. We're hoping that you enjoy your day. We have a lot to do today, so we'll try and get through it as much as possible. I look around, we have people I talked to someone from Scranton, Pennsylvania, who's with the Sabre Group, and other people who are here. I haven't talked to everyone, but anybody from Sabre? Sabre? Thank you for coming, thank you very much. Any other out-of-towners? Any other out-of-towners? Okay, where are you from?
Annandale, Virginia.
Oh my goodness, thank you very much. Let's give him a nice hand. And also for Scranton. Bob, where are you from?
Gilreath Park, Maryland.
Thank you very much. All right, as we continue with the program, I just want to welcome everyone again. Thank you for coming. We hope that you're going to learn some facts today that you didn't know and see some things you haven't seen and just have a good time. So we encourage everyone to participate. If you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand, and our moderator, which is Mr. Alex Glaze from WJZ-TV. Raise your hand, Alex. We'll be coming to him very shortly. So now we're going to have the national anthem by Mr. Leo A. Grant. Please stand and remove your hats.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad face and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watch were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Let's look to the Lord in prayer. Father God, we thank you for the privilege to come before you. You are the almighty, immortal, invisible, and everlasting God. And dear Lord, we come today praying, first of all, your forgiveness for our sins and our shortcomings. And then, dear Lord, we want to give you thanks. Thanks for this opportunity to celebrate Negro Leagues baseball. Thank you for this beautiful facility, and in particular, Kevin Kamenetz for keeping his promise to the museum to give them a place. Thank you for Johnny O for continuing his support. And I want to thank you for all the Negro League players, and the men and women who dedicate their lives, for whom this museum is dedicated to. Thank you for them, and some we know. Some are here today. And we thank you, dear Lord, that we've gotten to know them. And we pray that you would bless the proceedings today, bless the people who have come, and we pray you get glory. In Jesus' name I ask, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Benson. Just want to take a few minutes to recognize the founders, co-founders, Audrey Simmons. Raise your hand, Audrey. And also Ray Banks. Also, just want to make mention that we have vendors here, so please take time, stop, visit the vendors, and see what that you can buy. Also, Ray will have an exhibit later on. He'll talk more about that. But without further ado, let me turn the program over to our moderator, which is Alex Glaze, who's from Channel 13 WJZ. Let's welcome Alex.
All right. How's everybody doing? Good. Wow, I'm really excited to do this today. We have such an incredible panel of guests, and actually, I'm looking in the back of the room. We got a couple players who I think are supposed to be on this panel up here right now. So I'm going to call you up here, and if you wouldn't mind joining us for a second. Let's start with Pedro Sierra, who started. Go ahead. Yeah, Pedro Sierra. Come on up here, Pedro. I might have some questions for you. Pedro started playing baseball when he was 16 years old. Played over 2 decades, so Pedro obviously has a lot of great stories for us today. Luke Atkinson is also going to be joining us. Yep. Played for the Satchel Paige All-Stars, the Wilson All-Stars, and the Carolina Tigers. And then we have Eddie Banks. Played for the Newark Eagles. Eddie's making his way up to the stage. And in addition to players, we also have a couple of authors who have spent time researching and learning and teaching about the Negro Leagues and their importance, specifically teams here in Baltimore. So I'm going to start with Bob Luke. And we also have Bernard McKenna here joining us as well. I believe this mic is on. I believe so. And okay, great. I'll start with you, Pedro, if you don't mind.
I guess just to start here, the Negro Leagues, started in 1920. 27 years later, Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier. But I want to ask you just about the significance of the Negro Leagues today, not only for baseball, but in society.
Well, I am very, very humble, but also very proud to be part of this legacy. I knew about Negro League baseball back home. I'm Cuban born and raised. And back home, we say the color league because the word negro, we didn't use that word negro, but we had to use it. I couldn't help but to love baseball because there were so many baseball players in my neighborhood, some former Negro League players. My dad was a boxer, so I wasn't about to box. But it was a big influence that baseball had, Negro League baseball had in Cuba, because we had a lot of Negro League players that went to play baseball in the Cuban Winter League. And all the kids always wanted to be, a player, most of the players. There was this fellow named Rafael Almeida, who was the first Cuban player with Cincinnati, 1911. He lived in my neighborhood. And he always talked to my dad. My dad was a bricklayer, and then on Sunday he had a shoeshine chair in the neighborhood. And Mr. Almeida would go and talk to him and tell my dad, Perico, that was my father's nickname, they should allow the colored boys to play because they're good. Because he had seen players in the Negro League before, and they was all that. And I can tell you, I will never forget the day that we learned Jackie Robinson had broken the barrier. And it was something like, oh my God, it was the greatest. I got to meet him years before he passed. But the impacting thing is that being part of the Negro League at a young age, like I was, but I learned so much. I learned the fact to respect the manager, to respect the players, the coaches, the fans. Above all, respect the game. And what that meant for us, black players, Latinos or not, what does it mean? The daring act, I would say, that Franz Ricky had to say, we're going to do this. But not only that, it's what Jackie had to go through, whatever he went. Okay, And even the years that I went in the Negro League, 1954, I had never, I knew English, okay, but I never heard the N word. So then they told me what it meant. And yes, we were harassed, heckled, and called everything in the book. But my way to get at them was to say, yo no hablo inglés, yo no entiendo. And then I would cuss them back in Spanish, and they didn't know. But I had to. One thing that I learned, because Oscar Charleston was my manager. Oscar Charleston had played baseball in Cuba for many years. And even though I knew English, he'd come up to the mound and say, Chico, hombre no gusta curva. I mean, kid, the guy doesn't like a curveball. And I say, but I learned that how those guys absorbed me, I would say, for lack of words, what it meant to be part, what I was explained every year when I went back home, the importance of hey, you're part of a special group, and what does it mean? Throughout the years, when I look back, that I know now that from every Negro League player alive, which is not that many of us, especially from all the Latinos that played in the Negro League, there's only 5 of us alive. I'm happy to be lucky, thank God, to be one of them. I'm not ready yet. But it is important part of that legacy, what I have learned, okay? The camaraderie, the respect, what to do. And what I do when I talk to the kids, don't make them understand, it's not easy to have been played in the Negro League. When you play here today, tomorrow you're in Miami, the next day you're in Chicago, the next day in Wyoming, on a bus with no air condition, you open the windows and that's it. And $100 a month, those of us. But I wanted to be a baseball player. But it's that legacy that I'm very proud of. Being part of that, something that made an impact in society. To know how many people are still alive when I get together, that's something. And to see the crowd like here, that the response to attend to something like that, I really thank you. I appreciate what you have done.
Awesome. Great. I'm going to ask Eddie and Luke kind of a similar question here, because you all obviously have a different perspective than Pedro, who came from Cuba here. Just when you think about the Negro Leagues and how successful they were and how much of a source of pride they were for Black Americans, just what isn't talked about enough today when it comes to the Negro Leagues?
Well, I'm just proud to be a part of this legacy because growing up, we didn't have TV and phones and stuff like they have today. So I watched a lot of these great ball players come through town. Those are my idols. I didn't know anything about the baseball for the major leagues and stuff because I'd never seen them play. But I heard, because we had a radio, how good they were. And they said that the blacks weren't as good. So I never seen them play, but I saw these black ball players come through town all the time. I saw some great ball players come through town. And my idol was Buck Leonard, because he watched me play in high school. And I just, he taught me about different things. So, and I, loved playing baseball. But all the time, I was watching the black ball players come through town and play. And then I heard on radio about how great the white ball players was. Now and then when you get a TV, I saw the Major League play. And I started looking for what they was doing that the black ball players couldn't do. I saw the great black ball players, what they were doing and everything. Then I saw the white ball players thing. And I looked and see. Every game I saw, I was trying to see what they was doing that we couldn't do. I didn't see it then, and I don't see it now. But I was looking for it because that's what they were talking about. You can't do this, you can't do that. But I enjoyed the game, and I'm just so proud to be a part of this legacy. I came on board in the late 50s in the barnstorming area. And I signed with Satchel Paige, started barnstorming around the country. But before that, I signed in the independent league. Coming out of high school, I signed in the independent league for $5 a week. Then I played with the Wilson All-Star followed. Then the manager of the Carolina Tigers approached me and said, young man, how much you make for playing for those? I said, I make $5 a week. He said, well, you come play with me, I'll pay you $15 a week. So I immediately signed with him. So I started playing with the Carolina Tigers. While I was playing with the Carolina Tigers, we played against Satchel Paige All-Stars, and Satch saw me playing, so he told after the game, he told the coach to go and tell that young man I want to talk to him. And I said, wow, the great Satchel Paige want to talk to me. I wonder what they want to talk about. So I went on to sit down and talk to him. He said, young man, said, you're a pretty good ball player. Said, all these young ball players I'm traveling around with me now, said, I'm showcasing them to the major league. Said, I think you major league caliber ball player. Said, now if you sign with me, I showcase you, probably help you get a contract. So I immediately signed with Satch. Started traveling around with Satchel Paige All-Stars. He barnstormed around the country, played against some of the great ball players. And I'm glad I had a chance to play against some of the great ball players. And the last month in June, in 1960, I was barnstorming with Satch. I was approached by one of the scouts from the Philadelphia Phillies. And he, told Satch, like time. So I said, well, Mr. Page, I said, I got to go to the military. I got drafted, had to go to the military. So he said, boy, you just made me lose $5,000. I said, how's that, Mr. Page? He said, Philadelphia Phillies off $3,000 of your contract. I told him you were worth $5,000. I said, Mr. Page, you got to go see Uncle Sam and get your $5,000. Because I had to go to the military. So he said, we're going in the military. So I tried to get the Phillies to sign me before I went in the military. They said, well, now we'll sign you when you get out. And, it was the end of that. Because I went in the military, so I played in the military. And when I got in the military, I was surprised because a lot of the major leaguers had gotten drafted into the military at the same time. So I played on the same team with the major league ball players, and they were doing the same thing. That's why I know I hadn't seen anything that they was doing that we couldn't do. So we played together in the military. But I was glad I was able to play with them so I could see that I was major league caliber ball player and I could, match in with play with anybody out there. So I was glad to. But I'm glad I had a chance to play, and I, won't regret because some of the time, I think with the assistant general manager for the Orioles, I think he approached us. We was over there once. He wanted to know, did we feel bitter about not being there? I said no, but I feel rejected because I didn't get a chance to make that money that the white ball players got a chance to get. We couldn't get paid for our talent like the white ball players get. I said I feel rejected behind that, but not bitter. No, I don't feel bitter because I played the game and I love playing the game, and I know I played against some of the good ball players out here, some of the greatest out there. But I'm glad I had a chance to play with them, and thank you all for coming.
There's a lot been covered already about how you feel and what the game, who you met and where you went, and I think all of that is so important. But I have another slant on this, and it's about baseball, young people, and today. I was fortunate. My father took me out because he knew a number of the New York Eagles, and I thought I could play a little baseball. I was 16 years old, and so I'm going to try out for the team, and I'll never forget that day. The guy went to into the batter's box to hit me a ground ball out at shortstop. Yeah, I played, but I didn't play at that level, and the ball came at me like it was a bullet. I knocked it down. I stepped on it, then I kicked it. To this day, I never got it up to throw it to first base. But from that day on, those guys were mentors to me. I was on a road where I may not be sitting here today, but they told me that you will do what we say do, not what you want to do, because I'm around a bunch of grown men at this point. But I learned the game of baseball. I learned to respect it. I learned to love it. And I thought I had a chance. I wasn't a great ball player, no, because of the age. I managed to hook on just at the end. It was about 2 years before I got to play in a game. And then about that time, things were looking really good. And I was, but Negro League baseball proper was at its end. So I tagged on with the barnstorming group. And it was an experience in my life to this day, I want to talk to, nurture, mentor every young person that I think that would listen long enough or plays on a baseball team. I'm tired of hearing it's boring. It's too hot. It's too this and it's too that. And not really understanding the game of baseball as it should be played. When the pitcher is about ready, young man, to throw that ball, everybody on the field has a job. And how many times have I engaged with high school teams in that same scenario, and as the outfielder with a hand in his pocket, or he's looking up, he's not even in the game. You don't understand what is happening. You don't understand the sacrifices that black men, and there were about 3 women, black men sacrificed to make it clear that we were a force to be reckoned with in a game that you said we couldn't play. You're wasting time, you're wasting the energy, you're wasting the ability to take the next step in your life. Baseball for young people now, I don't coach anymore. I coached high school in Washington, D.C. But there was so much that's going on that you don't know, but it's more than just a game now. It's life. So trying to teach them and get them to understand that baseball has a lot of meanings to it. Friendship, mentorship, ability to learn, teamwork. There was so much that is involved that I think that if young people today got an opportunity to get the right training or get their mindset changed to some degree to do something that is meaningful in life, we might, and I do believe, cut down some of the violence that's on the streets today. Because you have somewhere to go, something to do, friends to be around, lessons to learn, the ability to make money. I believe that if we can teach it and make it work, and I know that we have the people in this room that have the ability and the experience that can make a difference in young people's lives that are on a baseball team. They'll learn what it means to work hard, depend on others, be there for others yourself. It's more than championships. It's now become, they call it a way of life back then. It was. That's what we had to do to survive. But we made it meaningful. We made it worthwhile. And the young people today can take it, and it means even more to them. It's life. It could mean life or death. And to learn what it means to be on a team, and I don't mean just a baseball team, to be on a team in life that'll make a difference, not only on yours, but other young people around you. So baseball was good for me. I loved it. And when I got drafted, the Philadelphia Phillies had begun to take notice, but then I got drafted. So going into the military, Fort Jackson, South Carolina, and then Fort Gordon, Georgia, and when I got a time to breathe, I ran right straight to the commander's building, wherever he was at. And I say, sir, I understand that they got baseball teams in the Army. He said, yes, we do. I said, well, I played professional baseball, and I would like to try out for the team. Oh, son, if you can hit a baseball with this rifle you're going to be good. 2 months later, I was in Vietnam. So I never got the shot. But I'm thankful to be here. I'm thankful for the work that's been put in by the Simmons Foundation. I appreciate you all and what you're doing and what you're continuing to do. This is a meaningful operation. And I pray to God that you continue to do this work and make a difference in the lives of our young people today. Thank you.
Well, I can identify with the importance of team and being part of a team that was talked about. That's very important. Myself, I played a little baseball in high school, enjoyed being on that team. I could not hit a curveball, so that was the end of my baseball career as a player. But I always remained a fan, and I got to know about the Negro Leagues maybe 15, 16 years ago. And I was struck by the effort that these players would put into the game in the light of all the discrimination and segregation, the poor playing conditions, the bus rides, being denied meals at restaurants, can't fill up the bus here at this gas station. Didn't get them down. They went ahead and they played wonderful baseball. And on a number of occasions, Negro League teams like the Elite Giants would play a comparable white team, like the Baltimore Orioles, when the Baltimore Orioles were in the International League, and beat them. The Baltimore Orioles had even beefed up their roster with a couple of Washington Senators, and really to no avail. So the mythology about Negro Leaguers not being as good as major leaguers is just another myth, another falsehood. And so I think it's important to tell the story of Negro League baseball, just so it stays alive, is not forgotten as the world goes on.
Bob's book and my book are part of a conversation that continues. More papers, more original sources are being digitized every day. We have a saying that I learned in my first semester graduate course in research methods. Your book, your article is obsolete the moment it's published. So I'm asking you all, tell the stories. Annoy your relatives who saw games, who were played for games. Get those recorded on your phones. Take time to transcribe information. Dig around in attics. We're approaching the 100th anniversary of the Eastern Colored League. The Afro-American does not have a newspaper from that week for opening day for the Eastern Colored League. It's not in their archives. It doesn't exist digitally that we know of. It's probably in someone's attic, probably in a pile of papers you're going to throw away. Go through them. If you run across any newspaper at the time, from the 19th century through the 1950s, because there were different editions of the evening paper, different editions of the morning paper, sometimes, a dozen. They all contain different stories. Save them. If you find the Afro-American from the opening of the Eastern Colored League, call the Baltimore Afro-American and email me, because I'd love to see it too. But they can get it digitized and everybody can see it. If you have photographs, if you have letters from relatives who saw games, some of those games we don't have statistics for. Some of those stories will be lost. So look for those resources. Try to find them. Annoy your relatives. Get them on tape. Talk to them. And everybody in the room, we have some young people here, we have some older people here. You're never too young or too old to tell stories. Join the conversation. 2, beg your teachers if you're in school. So you have to write a report for English or for history. Say, can I write it about the Negro Leagues, please? Can I write it about African-American professional baseball before the Negro Leagues? Please, beg your teachers. Trust me, they'll be thrilled at your initiative. Just a couple stories. In 1920, Doc Sykes with the Baltimore Black Sox got a contract for $350 a month. That's the kind of, in a way, the 1920s were a heady time. And this is 3 years before the Eastern Colored League. I have other stories to tell, but I'll stop talking now.
Really quick, I just want to keep it with you guys for a second because you can speak to the significance of Baltimore in the grand scheme of the significance, the historical significance of the Negro Leagues. Can you just kind of speak to how important Baltimore was?
Well, Baltimore hosted a number of African-American teams, the most famous of which, obviously, is the Baltimore Elite Giants. And talking to the mic, he says. All right. And the Elite Giants became major social event for Baltimore. People could go to the ballpark and be free of any constraints around segregation, around discrimination. They could bet, and a lot of betting went on not only who's going to win the game, but the next pitch going to be a ball or a strike. You take a ball, I'll take a strike. The Elite Giants won 2 division championships and one World Series. Brought a lot of attention to Baltimore, and I think showed a lot of people in Baltimore what African Americans could do, not only on the ball field, but in terms of running, administrating. It took a lot of smarts to put this team together, get it on the road. The team would go from city to city. Somebody had to manage all that and make it happen. And the Elite Giants were superb at that. I know.
You know, Baltimore was and it is, a major African American city. Rube Foster's photo is over there. In 1920, the first year of professional, well, the Negro Leagues that started, there were Negro professional leagues before then, but none of them got traction the way Rube Foster's league did. And in 1920, he took his Chicago American Giants east to tour major cities on the East Coast for what he called the World Series of Negro League Baseball. They went to New York, they went to D.C., they came to Baltimore. Rube Foster sat in the stands, not of Maryland Park, but of the Westport baseball grounds. And why was he there? Because he knew that Baltimore was a major African-American capital, and he knew that if there was going to be a professional league in the East, Baltimore would have to be a linchpin for it. And he also saw not only the skill of the ball players, I talked about Doc Sykes, who pitched one of his perfect games in 1922 against a team, the next year they would both be in the Eastern Colored League. So if the Eastern Colored League had started the year before, he would have a perfect game in the Major League record books. Baltimore hosted in 1926, the Black Sox didn't play, but then the Negro League World Series would travel from place to place. And it was the first no-hitter in World Series history. Red Grier, down where the Wheelabrator plant is, pitched the first no-hitter in World Series history. And just this past postseason, people were saying, oh, it's the second no-hitter. And I call radio stations up and they would say, well, we understand what you mean, but, and my response was, well, it's a major league. And the other thing about that is Major League Baseball didn't elevate the Negro Leagues. They recognized them. So Rube Foster came to town in 1920. He also went to Wilmington, Delaware, and Baltimore can take credit for that because the Black Sox would travel up there and people from Baltimore would go up there. They had a local following in Wilmington. Teams from Philadelphia, the Bacharach Giants, would come down. So Baltimore can take credit for that too. Also in 1924, they hosted games in the Negro League World Series. And in 1929, I'm going to be a little bit chauvinistic here. One story is, which I choose to believe, the Western champions didn't want to play the Black Sox. They were intimidated by them. In 1930, the Baltimore Black Sox, they needed pitching. So they decided to make a pitch for a young man who was playing in Birmingham, Satchel Paige, to come up and pitch for them. And we have a photo, Afro-American, we meaning the community here, has a photo of Satchel Paige in a Black Sox uniform. And that photo was the inspiration for one of the bobblehead series of Satchel Paige. So you see him in a Black Sox uniform, Kansas City Monarchs, Satchel Paige. But that photo is the record. Also in that photo is Mule Suttles, who they lured over from St. Louis. Now the Depression costs them money. But talk about you could play on the same level. In 1930, there were a series of all-star games throughout the 20s and 30s between the Baltimore Black Sox and Major League All-Stars and International League All-Stars. The 1930 All-Stars included members, the major members of the Philadelphia A's World Championship team, and it included Hack Wilson, 190 RBIs, 54 home runs, and they lost 8 out of 9 games to the Black Sox. The only game they won was pitched by Baltimore native Eddie Romo, and they won it 1-0. The writer for the Baltimore Sun, and if we have a couple hours, I can tell you about the history of the Baltimore Sun and how they represented African Americans. But the writer, Gibbs, said he's not sure that the All-Stars are convinced they can't beat the Black Sox, but everybody else is. One last line. Roger Pippin in the Baltimore American had, in the 1920s, the Baltimore American was the largest circulation paper in the South. And he wrote, so that everyone in the South could read this, watching the Black Sox play, their ability astonished me. And all right, I'm an English professor, so astonished is an Anglo-Saxon word, which means getting hit in the head by a stone. So, as a last comment, let's not be astonished by anything and anyone's ability and anyone's skill. Let's just listen to it.
We're here from Miss Day, Leon Day's wife, who is in the Hall of Fame.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Miss Leon Day.
Into the top.
My late husband was Leon Day. He played for the, he started out with the Black Sox, Baltimore Black Sox, 17 years old. He was 17 years old. And he started out with Baltimore Black Sox, 1934 it was, no mistake, 1934. All the stuff is in there. And so they promised to pay him $60 for the whole season. And Leon paid for the whole season and didn't get paid anything. So, but they, like Leon says, he didn't care because he loved the game. He would have played for nothing anyway because he thought they was crazy whenever they offered him $60 to play a game that he loved. So, but Leon left Baltimore Black Sox, and he went to the Brooklyn Eagles. And that was 1937, I think it was 1937. And with the Brooklyn Eagles, and then the Brooklyn Eagles changed their name to the Newark Eagles. So he played for 22 years, winter and summer baseball. Well, after the summer game, he went to Cuba, Venezuela, Puerto Rico, Mexico. He went to those places, and he played winter baseball. And so Leon got inducted into the Puerto Rico Hall of Fame. Was just before he got inducted into the Hall of Fame here. I think it was 1993 that he got inducted into the Puerto Rico Hall of Fame. So, but he was alive then, so we was able to go, and he was able to receive his plaque. But 1995, he died March the 13th, 1995. He was in the hospital whenever he learned that he had got inducted into the Hall of Fame up in Cooperstown. So, I was the one who had to go and accept his plaque up there. So, Leon loved the game. Like he said, he would have played for nothing, because he loved the game. And Leon finished up his career Nook Eagles, he left Nook Eagles and came back to Baltimore because Miss Matlin, the owner of Nook Eagles, they Jackie Robinson had broke the color line, and two of the players on his team, they were younger than him, Monte Everett and Larry Doby. Larry Doby went to the Cleveland Indians, and Monte Everett went to the Giants. So so Leon left from Newark and came back to Baltimore. He played one season with the Baltimore Elites. That was 1949. So that's whenever they won the World Series. Not the Baltimore Elites won the World Series in 1949. So he left from Baltimore and went to Canada. And that's where he finished his career up playing AAA baseball in Canada. And he finished up there because they wanted him to go to the major league, but like he says, he spent 2.5 years in the Army. And his arm was wasn't no good, and he wasn't going to the major league, you know, and he was all worn out. You know, he would have went to the major league whenever he was in his prime, because he was about 37 years old whenever Jackie Robinson broke the color line. So he enjoyed the game and everything, and so he spent 2.5 years in World War II, and we came out, and he went played a Nook Eagle played against the Philadelphia Stars, and he pitched a no-hitter, no run, no hitter, and when he first came out of service. So he played a little bit in service too. When he was in service, he played, and they won the Norway something other championship there. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So Leon had a great career. Leon did. He had a great career. You know, like he struck out 19 batters in Puerto Rico in one game, and the All-Star game he struck out 14, and Baltimore Elites, he was playing against them. Well, Roy Campanella was playing for the Baltimore Elite, and he struck out Roy Campanella 3 times, and and he loved to brag about that, you know, because see, Roy Campanella was a good hitter, you know, and Leon loved to brag about he struck out Roy Campanella 3 times, you know, but he struck out 18 batters when he played against the Elites. And but his career, he had a great career, and he really enjoyed his playing days. He really enjoyed it. So just give the mic back to the gentleman.
Yeah, hi, my question is to Mrs. Day about the comparison between Leon and Satchel. And I know there was an instance where you can tell the story better.
Leon always wouldn't talk about himself. He always would talk about the other guys, you know, how good they was and everything. And he would never pat himself on the back or anything. So someone got Leon to talking. You know, they gave him a little Johnny Walker Red, and he started talking. and he started talking. And that's when he started telling the story about he beat Satchel Paige 4 times out of 4 times that they met. And one time, one of the games, he beat Satchel Paige at the bat and on the mound, because he said they had went to the 9th inning, and it was still nothing. And he came to the bat. He said he hit a home run off of Satchel Paige, and so he said he was a good hitter. If you look at his saying that Leon was a good hitter, he played infield, outfield, and pitch. He did it all except catch, because he said whenever they swing the bat, he would close his eyes, so he couldn't catch. So but that and one of the games it was they didn't go for the World Series that year. It was Homestead Graves and Kansas City was in the World Series. So one of the guy pitcher got hurt and couldn't play. So now they got together and went and talked to the coach, the manager thing at Kansas City, and asked could they go and get a pitcher. And they said, yeah, y'all can go and get a pitcher. And they went and got Leon. So Leon B signed your page. So when Leon B signed your page, they said, no, that game don't count. That game don't count. So they swapped that out. So he beat him 4 times out of 4 times. But that game they took away from him. But he beat him 3 times out of 4. Out of 4 times.
Ms. Day, just want you to tell the audience how you and I met.
Oh, let me see, can I remember this now? Mr. Banks was down, okay, they had named a park after my late husband, the Leon Day Park, and we was giving something down there. We had a lot of the Negro Leagues guys was down there. And I met Mr. Banks down there. Mr. Banks just fell in love with everything. So me and him just hooked up together. And Mr. Banks was working for MTA. And we was on I don't know where we were going or coming from. I was with Mr. Banks. So I said, Mr. Banks had started working. I'm going to keep the Negro League alive. I'm going to keep it alive, you know. So now, one day we were coming from somewhere, and I said, Mr. Banks, I said, but look like you're going to have to retire from your job. I said, you can't have 2 jobs. So he said, look like I am going to have to retire from my job. So I thought he was kidding, you know, I thought he was kidding. I think the next week, Mr. Banks retired from his job and started working for the Negro League. Start working for what y'all see now, you know. He working man. Me, Miss Bank, we have to get on him sometime because he be about to work himself to death. So we had to get on him sometime to slow down. But Mr. Bank whole heart is into the Negro League, keeping the Negro League alive. And I thank you, Mr. Banks, for that.
I'll tell you, I'm just impressed. Ray Banks is a classmate, 3rd grade, right? But anyway, I'm bringing to the attention that the role that the Baltimore Elite Giants played with the development of the Chick Webb Memorial Recreation Center in Baltimore. It was the only recreation center in America built by nationally known black folks, entertainers. And it was the Baltimore Elite Giants that did an exhibition ball game. I would love to research that as to what date that was, but it was very significant that that recreation center was built. And to date, the 12th, tomorrow, 1940, was the concert that was done at the 5th Regiment Armory and building that recreation center from the ground up by the whole black community of Baltimore. And the Baltimore Elite Giants played a major role. And the other question I have is, I understand that there was a stadium here in Baltimore up off of Edison Highway. Oh, okay. I'd love if anybody could tell me more about that particular stadium.
Well, Bugle Field was located on Edison Highway, and it was a federal. Yeah, and it was where the Elite Giants played in 1938 and 1940 till about 1946 or so, 47. It was torn down and replaced by the Rockwell Industries building. And about 3 years ago, they tore that building down. And I believe right now the field where Bugle Field was doesn't have anything built on it. And it'd be wonderful if we could find some way to create a little park there on the infield where Bugle Field once was. But that's where the Elite Giants played. I don't think they played there in 1939. That's when they were playing at Oriole Park, and they were barnstorming a lot. But Bugle Field is a wonderful memory for Baltimore. It's a very important memory. It's one of the things, like Bernard was saying, we have to keep alive and research and find out as much as we can about it. Very few pictures of Bugle Field exist. The most famous one is them tearing the stadium down. You can see the groundskeeper, or I believe it was the groundskeeper, who's pointing. Yeah, he's pointing, and they're taking all the wood apart, and it's being sold off. Now, Bernard and I have found recently, we purchased some pictures of the Elite Giants playing at Bugle Field. Some team pictures where several of the pictures are lined up, and you can identify who they are. And we're going to find a way to share those. And we bought them because we want to make sure they didn't go into some private collection and then get stuck somewhere. We bought them because we want them to be out for the public to see. So Bernard and I are trying to find a way to do that.
That famous photo of Bugle Field being torn down was being sold on eBay by the Tribune Company for $14.99. I bought it. We scanned it, and it's in high resolution on the Dead Ball Baseball site. And also, that's going to wind up probably at the Simmons Museum at some point in the near future as well.
In the library here, on the second floor, Mr. McKenna, you may not know, but I put an exhibit of Bugle Field itself. It talks a little bit about it. I think it shows the air shot from the air or something. A friend of mine at the MTA did some research on it as well. But on the second floor in this venue where we are today, it tells a lot about the Bugle Field itself.
David's with Sabre and Peter Coolball with Sabre. They have a newsletter called the Baltimore Chop. So if you have stories that you'd like to tell about the Negro Leagues, submit them to the Baltimore Chop newsletter as a venue for publication.
I had occasion to visit Bugle Field, and that was a social gathering. It was so much fun that was held. I was much younger, of course, than some of those folks, but that was a real gathering, and all of the hustlers and everybody, so much went on in the stands that the ball players certainly would not be aware of. But it was really a social gathering, and lots of fun was held, and I was happy to have been part of that.
This is for everybody. If you could just go down the line, really, just pass the mic down and just let everyone know one thing that we can all do in this room to keep the legacy of the Negro Leagues alive today. If we can just go down and just everyone share the one thing.
What it can be done, it just continue to do, things like this, so that people will get some information. One thing that came to mind, I don't know how many of you that are here know there were ladies that played in the Negro League and ladies that owned teams in the Negro League. Okay, there were quite a few. Okay, quite a few ladies that own. Would you see there? Then, if you come by my table later, I'll show you the ladies that own teams. There's only one lady alive, her name is Minnie Ford. She's 93 years old. She's in Grand Rapids. She owned the Detroit Stars. And the reason she owned it is because her uncle, Mr. Raspberry, who was the owner of the Stars, was going to buy the Kansas City Monarchs. And the league president said, you cannot own two teams. So they passed that information, and then she became the owner. But also about the ladies that played in the Negro League. Okay? To me, as a young kid when I came here, and not to be a macho man because I'm Cuban, but the women didn't play baseball. Okay? And I had the pleasure, the honor to have played with two of them, Mamie Johnson and Connie Morgan. And I saw Tony Stone played, and she could, in baseball lingo, she could pick dirt. I tell you how good she was. She was the best of them. But it's very important, to go on and find out about that. And one last thing I want to say to the young people, don't give up. Okay? I would say, might be kind of prejudiced and said, baseball is the best game around. Okay? You don't get hurt, but you have to listen. Even though baseball had become too much systematic. The one thing that during my days, I played from 54 to 76. Okay? And the one thing, when you went to the ballpark, you went to play baseball. You didn't want to go to look in the stands, and you dressed as a baseball player. You didn't have the cap sideways, you didn't have no cap. You sit there and you listen. You listen to what the manager said, what the coaches said. You pay attention, okay? Because and we didn't have in the Negro League no trainers. We rub each other's arm, okay? We didn't have no sick leave. You got sick, you went home. Simple as that, okay? And you had to do that. We played the game. We did play the game, hurt or not hurt, okay? Because we loved it. We loved it, and there was nothing to me more exciting than going back home and say, I'm a professional baseball player. Oh, great. It's a great thing, you know. And I tell the young kids that I talk to, listen to your coaches. They know better than you. You don't know anything. Listen to the game. Respect that and play the game and do the best you can do, okay? Because that's all be nice about you.
First, I want to thank Miss Audrey, Ray Banks, and Miss Audrey's late husband, Bert Simmons, because we wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for what they have this display on the walls. Yeah. I just want to thank them for it. Is any coaches in the house here today? Any baseball coaches in the house? Okay. I just want to say to you, keep the good work up. Tell your kids about what's going on, what they have to do. When I was coaching high school ball, I would tell the kids, you can field, you can throw, you can run, but your hardest part is hitting. If you can't hit, you can't play this game of baseball. That is your hardest part. If you can't hit, you can't play baseball. And as a coach, just keep the work alive. Just tell the kids what's going on. And if you can, bring them to the museum. Take them into it so they can keep it going. Because they're the ones going to have to keep everything going. As we pass on, we'll be gone, and they'll be the one to keep it going.
One of the things that I think is utmost, is very important, that everyone in here be an active member of this organization. If you already are, then look to your friends, your walk boys, your home girl, whoever it is that's close to you, and get them to join with you in supporting this group that's keeping black baseball alive.
Can you hear me? I wish I could see more young people here today, because they are our future. They to carry on, but I just see a very few here. But I wish I could see a little more young men here today to learn about the Negro League. Whenever we opened the park up, Leon Day Park up, I worked hard down there with those kids. You know, we said we got to have a baseball team down here. So the guys we had a football team. The boys said, Miss Day, you want baseball? I said, yeah, baseball. They took the football players and made baseball players out of them. Those guys, really, those guys, they had never played baseball. Every time you throw a ball at them, they're duck, you know. So, but with those guys, those football coaches, they worked with those boys, and we went around to different places, and they beat all. One man says they don't know how to play. They ain't gonna win. They're not gonna win, but we beat them all. You know, we beat them all. But we had something really going down at Leon Days. But my health fell on me, and so you got to know to get the right people to carry things on. But sadly, got the wrong people. So, but they broke up, you know, they broke the team up, and Cal Ripner gave us all the gears and all the everything for the kids and thing. And one of the guys that's supposed to have been working with the kids took and sold everything, you know. So you got to know who to get, but my help fell on me. And so we don't have a baseball team down there no more. So someone says, Louis Field says that he was going to get another, they're going to get the field fixed up, and we're supposed to be getting another a team down there. So that's what I hope for, that we can have the young people play and get them off the streets, you know, and have these young guys playing, because these young boys are doing up but killing up one another, 16, 17 years old, you know. And I just hope that we can get the right people and the right people to work with these young people, and especially those boys that do the windshields, you know, like we need to pull them off the street so they can, it's a lot of work to do. But I wish that we can do this and keep the Negro League alive, because it's the young people is the one gonna be able to keep it alive, you know, because we gonna get old and we can't get, well, I can't hardly get around. So.
All right, can I get a round of applause for our panelists today?
I'm a collector and displayer of the Negro Leagues. I've been doing it for many years and been coming around to various functions. And I'm very disturbed because I don't see the young people. If everyone in here would bring one young person out to see our display, we are called the Traveling Museum of the Negro League Baseball. And if we get the young people to carry it on, maybe some of your grandchildren will get to learn about the Negro League. Our display here today will give you something to carry home today. I like to tell people when they come to my displays, I want you to leave here with 2 new facts about the Negro Leagues. I have questions, I have answers, I have handouts, giveaways, so come by and look at our displays and you will go away with 2 new facts about Negro League baseball. Oh, my main theme is, I usually tell people when they come through, I give out bubble gum and knowledge, and I'm out of bubble gum.
First of all, give all the glory to God. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him. Jane Pittman went to the water fountain. She took a few sips of the water. She willed her way to that fountain. We have a fountain too, folks. A fountain of knowledge that we can not only drink from, but absorb and pass on to others. And I always say, if anything is done in God's order, I know it's going to be right all the time. And I tell Miss Orgy when she looks at me and we have things to do, first of all, I try to do it in God's Spirit each and every time, especially for her, and like I've done for Miss Day. On May the 9th, 2009, I think, May the 7th, 2009, a bill was passed that nobody knows about, which means the second Saturday in the month of May just happens to be Negro League Day in the state of Maryland. The second Saturday in the month of May. My brother, Delegate Malvin Sukes, he's right there, is responsible for having that bill passed way back then. My prayers are when the Orioles, the Bay Sox, the Ironbirds, the Shorebirds, when they're home, having a home game, why not acknowledge that one day out of a year, Negro League Baseball? When you see me wearing this, I'm not wearing it for the beauty of it. It tells a story. Somebody said I'm a walking billboard. Well, I'm going to be a walking billboard if it has a good effect on it. So there's a lot of people that are helping us out to tell this story, and we're going to continue to tell the story, and I got to stop telling the story guess my time has been up.
Good afternoon, everyone. Please support this effort because it is a giant effort and a lot goes into it, and we really need your help. Even though we are located in this building, this is the public library of Baltimore County. So if you can't remember, people say the museum, where it is. Just think about the library and be sure to say that we are in the Baltimore County Public Library. Our name's out front. It's the first thing you see when you walk in. We have been operating on the third, fourth, and fifth floors, and we are planning an expansion to the sixth floor. So it's going to be more. Tell your children's teachers, have them to bring them here for field trips and what have you. Not just because we're in Baltimore County. We're open to everybody. So anybody here from Baltimore City, you tell your school teachers to bring the kids out here to see this exhibit, and maybe that will encourage some of those young people to do as these gentlemen have suggested today, and that is to take an interest in baseball, learn something about it, and hopefully it will enrich their lives just as it has enriched the lives of these presenters that you have heard today. Thank you very much for your presence today.
Thank you.